Brought to you by GTA. We start with you.
When you talk about people who are homeless, they all represent stories and families and struggles, and it's not always a clear cut and dry.
Major Tom Stambaugh has been leading the Salvation Army's efforts for the last 3 years. A big part of their work is with the Guam Homeless Coalition. We asked the Major what are some of the most common causes of homelessness based on his experience.
If it's conditional homeless, it's because either they lost income, they lost their job, like I said, death in the family, or a senior citizen who just can't afford the basics of life anymore.
There are two categories of homeless, conditional homeless and chronic homeless. Stambaugh told us that those in the conditional type are easier to work with as they mainly require resources that are readily available.
But chronic homeless need a little more convincing that they're not, they're losing their independence. Sometimes they're chronic homeless, sometimes they choose to be homeless. They don't want to, they rather live off the grid, so to speak. And trying to point them to the resources might be a little more hard to convince them that they'll be safe.
He says a big part of the challenge is that chronic homeless have the highest number of individuals with mental illness, so getting them to trust those trying to help them is tricky. And what about those who choose to live off the grid?
If it's a veteran, sometimes they would prefer to not interfere with the government. They did their part, and they just want to be left alone, kind of thing. It could be with someone with mental health issues. It's really trying to convince them to find stability, whether that's through medication, through a counselor, or whatever it is, to point them to resources that are going to help them be safe.
Another situation is with families. The Major says they do their best to provide as much as they can while helping them become more independent.
Families' dynamics for homelessness, a lot of times it's what we find is that either a lack of skills to find job placement, or if they have a criminal background, sometimes it's hard to find jobs that they can plug into.
This is why Stambaugh has created a new position called Homeless Navigator. The job is similar to a caseworker in that the Navigator will speak directly to the homeless to find out the specific needs of the individual or family.
Hearing their stories, because every homeless person is a story. They have their own issues, their own things that they're worried about and want to overcome, and pointing them to the right direction, whether that's education, whether that's another agency on island that can better help them or the children. I think that's the best way to really approach homelessness in Guam.
He believes the Homeless Navigator combined with counseling will help to discover the deeper causes of homelessness. Despite all the despair and downtrodden he's seen, Stambaugh has a positive and productive message for the island.
Trying to find areas that we can bring people into an environment that they feel safe in, that they feel accepted, that they're not a burden, that they want to make a change. And I think having those messages for the homeless is, we don't look at you as someone that's down and out, but as someone that has potential.
Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Julius Santos.
Brought to you by GTA. We start with you.